And you mentioned that complexity of having effectively, for want of a better word, two-speed businesses and what have you. How does having an awareness for you as CIOs and CTOs, almost being like the ship's captain and having a dashboard that gives you real-time awareness of everything that's going on in the organization, that all the different technologies, legacy and modern, all the different governance rules, how is that coming into the business? Do you have that dashboard? Are you beginning to see that clarity so that when the CEO rings you up and says, I've got an EPOS system in Perth down, you can say it's okay, we're on it, and actually it's it's an SLA that is
proactive rather than reactive, right?
Yes,
having that visibility. No.
Well, we actually built that in sort of John Lewis, particularly around topically Black Friday. So we could see exactly what we were selling and the volume. So we used to sit round at midnight before, and also when we went live on Christmas Eve for the sort of Christmas sales, you could see the numbers absolutely drop, and so we built this rather sort of clever thing, map of the UK. And each time the Dragon got sold, or each time whatever it was, that year, or any product, the image from the website were there, and when it was flicking very, very fast, you could see it, and you could see the conversion rates, etc., etc. We could see all the EPOS in all the stores, and so on and so forth. And also we had the social media sort of scans going as well. So that sort of control room is something that we built, and for something that is as real time as Black Friday, that's extremely helpful. And we used to have two versions of it actually. Sort of there was the public one where the managing director and all the directors and marketing folks turned up and looked at, and then there was our one where we were running the operation from.
Where some of the gremlins were living, maybe.
No, they were the same.
Just to build that, sorry, yes, and in Village, I think the MD and the CTO have a great vision, which is basically to bring data together, like one of the questions, data lake, and there are half a dozen or a dozen dashboards. But the most important dashboard is a dashboard that monitors other dashboards. It tells you, don't trust the food and beverage dashboard yet, because Tuesday's data is missing or something, and those are key to the business success.
So that was one of the first problems we had to solve in DWP. So when I joined 5 years ago, IT was very much a black box, and it didn't perform particularly well with everything being outsourced. So the journey was relatively straightforward. You could describe it as taking back ownership and control of our infrastructure and our services, and the next part would be, how do we drive stability? We were having 16 major incidents every month. It was an absolute leaky bucket of performance and service. And of course, in many senses, in many ways, more than one way, it was greenfield for us, because the infrastructure wasn't instrumented, there was no tools there. But of course, as we took back ownership and control, we couldn't address how do we fix this big monster, and how do we start to bring world-class service into the organization. And the way to do that was to instrument the infrastructure as we were building the new infrastructure. And we end up with, yes, we have a lot of legacy and infrastructure that we still maintain and support in the traditional way you were describing, but also we have the new products and services that we're building, where we can start thinking of operations as code and instrumenting right from the onset as you're building the application. And that insight, that rich insight, we've built a user experience center, we call it, a NOC in the old days, where we have 24/7 operations. And that insight comes, it's critical for me to be able to make decisions. That's where we're going to focus. That's the thing that we need to fix first, and that's what's going to give us the stability and the performance we need to actually do in IT what we say on the tin. Just do the basics, just make it run predictably. And the net result right now is that we have amazing performance, touch wood, and hopefully I'm not jinxing it here. We haven't had a major incident in a very, very long time. We've just gone through the Christmas period. We've hit our Christmas payments to some of the most vulnerable people in society, and that's been thankful because of all of the instrumentation and insight that we've been able now to gain. And it's now core to what we do When we think of a new product and service, we think of how do we instrument it, how do we get that insight, and if it's using the new methods, DevOps, Agile, and all of those things, how do we let those teams write those operations as code? So we've deployed what we call an SRE model, where they effectively own it, as Fergus was describing before. You build it, you own it, kind of mentality. And how do we also work through maybe our payment systems are still very traditional, and clearly you want them to work. And so that insight has been critical for us, and we now depend on a lot of the decisions we make for the future on that information. It's invaluable for us.
Oliver.
So it's interesting for me hearing the different points of view. It's great to hear that people have some of this data, but my experience at the places I've worked and customers that I talk to, a lot of folks don't even know how many computers they've got, connected to their network, or what networks they have.
That's
or,
where we were. Yes.
What applications. So it's great to hear that that's an evolving story for you. I mean, that's very much where we operate, is helping in that space. And I think it's been quite game changing for large organisations we work with, for them to get that real time visibility of what they have, and then not only that, but then respond. So if there is a malicious, if there's a cyber attack or some malicious incident occurs, you know exactly, you can go and find the infrastructure that's affected, or you can actually provide a status report and then go and actually do something about it. I mean, it's staggering quite how many organisations there are out there with massive investments in IT, but they're like the cobbler with broken shoes. They haven't invested in the, as you say, the instrumentation and the other pieces to actually know what they've got and know that BAU is running smoothly. So it's a really interesting topic for me.
The only other piece I'd say is, and Paul alluded to it, is social media. So I think the ultimate dashboard on your business are your customers, because if something's down, people will tweet about it or Facebook you or message you. When the BA website is down, as it has been a few times unfortunately, you tend to find out it's on Twitter first of all, then you get a message saying, sorry, it'll be back in XXX. So I think that is the uncapped view of the world. So I know products like Hootsuite and various other will monitor that and add it to your operational data. And it tends to be a few hours in advance of you knowing something's gone wrong. And it's free as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a brilliant point, because we do live in a world where everything is real time, don't we now? And as Fergus alluded to, everyone here, your organisations would suffer if there was an issue, and for those reasons. And presumably you have to be aware of that.
Yeah, so during Black Friday, there's a website that's monitoring all the retail websites, whether they're up or down, from volume or absolutely, the pressure is very real.
Yeah.